Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Tonight, the red flag warning has been extended following a day of wind-driven wildfires across San Diego County. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The largest is the Lilac Fire at 85 acres and 35% containment, and it started overnight in Bonsall, forcing at least 40 people to evacuate in early hours of the morning. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen caught up with one of those evacuees who says this isn't their first experience fleeing from a fire.
Dude, that's going to take up that whole hill.
This is video of the San Diego Soccer as they were driving down Interstate 15 early this morning. The fire started around 1 a.m. at Old Highway 395 and Lilac Road near the freeway.
I saw flames that were out of this world.
Tim Krause was woken up by an alert on his phone. At first, he thought nothing of it.
Then I heard my neighbors getting a lot of noise. They were filling up their car and stuff, so I got out and left. And it's been nonstop ever since.
Krause lives off West Lilac Road, facing north, in the path of the flames.
And the winds and the fire flames were unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it, and I've lived here all my life.
The fire spread very quickly last night, and as soon as crews evacuate this home, the fire came right here to the edge of the property. And as you can see, there's still firefighters out here putting out hot spots.
So firefighters, as we can see, are continuing to make good progress on the fire.
CAL FIRE Captain Robert Johnson says thanks to the night flying capability of a pair of water-dropping Blackhawks, crews were able to quickly get control over the fire.
The CAL FIRE Blackhawk helicopters were able to drop over 20,000 gallons of water over a period of 6 hours combined between the two helicopters.
The Lilac Fire was one of 3 fires that started within 90 minutes of each other. The Paula Fire and the Riverview Fire in Fallbrook were quickly doused. Johnson says investigators are looking into the cause of these fires. Meanwhile, Krause is heading to an evacuation center so that his animals, a dog and 2 cats, could relieve themselves. They've been in the car all night.
Her name is Sister, and I have a cat named Bro and another cat named Mija.
Okay.
So they're anxious to get some water and probably a litter box.
Krause says he will probably stay at a hotel if he couldn't return home tonight. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Another brush fire broke out this afternoon in Mission Valley, and it started shortly after noon on Friars Road, just across the street from Fashion Valley Mall. Police shut down a stretch of the busy road and evacuated people from nearby homes. Crews on the ground and in water-dropping helicopters tackled the fire, which was climbing toward a bluff-top condo complex. Firefighters stopped the fire at 3 acres with no damage or injuries reported. And as fire weather conditions continue to threaten our region, a red flag warning for our region has been extended through 8 p.m. Thursday. SDG&E also resumed public safety power shutoffs. And at last check, power is off for more than 15,000 customers. And over 68,000 others are at risk of having their power shut off as well. A fire weather watch is in effect through tomorrow afternoon for our mountains and valleys.
Well, we're dropping down to the low 40s tonight, continuing to see some of those clouds there. The big story, though, is going to be Santa Ana winds, right? It's what we've been talking about for really the last week or so. I'll tell you what to expect as we go throughout the rest of the week coming up.
In one of the first acts of his presidency, Donald Trump cut off access to the CBP One program for asylum in the United States. KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis spoke with migrants who had traveled to Tijuana with high hopes, only to see them dashed.
These people followed the rules. They used the CBP One mobile app to schedule an appointment to enter the United States legally. One of them is Eileen, a Venezuelan asylum seeker who told KPBS on Tuesday that she sacrificed everything to be here.
Aquí hay mucha gente que hizo mucho sacrificio, vendió sus casas, sus cosas y quedaron en la nada.
Aileen says that Trump's decision to abruptly cancel all CBP One appointments makes her feel like she's being punished for somebody else's crime.
Es que ese es el punto que quiero darle a entender, o sea, hay mucha gente que pasó ilegalmente y están allá adentro ilegalmente, quizás haciendo su desmadre y por eso es que él está así con uno, pero es que por uno no podemos pagar todo.
Shakira Chaparro is another Venezuelan asylum seeker. She is traveling with her 7-year-old daughter and hopes of reuniting her with her husband in California.
Creo que los que son padres me entenderán y sabrán que uno trata como de darle a sus hijos un mejor futuro.
Now, she has to tell her daughter that she may never see her father again. The mere thought of having that conversation brings tears to her eyes.
Es triste porque él tenía la ilusión de poder estar con su hija y nada, poder darle un mejor futuro.
Neither Alia or Chaparro know where they will sleep tonight. They spent all their money in Tijuana and are now stranded there. Other migrants in a nearby shelter spent the day trying to figure out their next moves.
No podemos regresar porque corremos peligro allá.
A woman that KPBS is identifying as Rosa doesn't know where she'll go next. But she knows going home is not an option. Local gangs there already killed her son-in-law and have threatened to kill her entire family if they ever return to their home in central Mexico. Jose Maria Garcia Lara runs the migrant shelter. He believes that terminating the CBP One program without putting anything else in place will have unintended consequences.
De querer entrar de forma irregular a los Estados Unidos como última opción.
He says topping the list of consequences will be more illegal crossings. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
More than a dozen Democratic state attorneys general filed suit today challenging President Trump's move to end birthright citizenship.
I have one message for President Trump. I'll see you in court. It violates our U.S. Constitution. The president has overstepped his authority by a mile, and we will hold him accountable.
The lawsuit alleges an executive order Trump signed yesterday violates the Constitution's 14th Amendment, which gives the right of citizenship to all children born in the U.S. The state AGs are also seeking a preliminary order to block the policy before the Trump administration can implement it. And after Monday's inaugural pomp and pageantry, President Trump hosted Republican congressional leaders at the White House today to talk about how to implement his agenda. Karen Kaifa is in Washington with the latest.
President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance and their wives attending a prayer service at Washington National Cathedral. The day after Trump signed dozens of executive actions to jumpstart his second presidential term.
I'm ready.
When are you going to go with it?
Including withdrawal of the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization, a 75-day delay of the U.S. ban on TikTok, sweeping pardons and commutations of rioters involved in the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, and aggressive immigration policies likely to prompt a massive immigration crackdown.
ISIS, they're out there enforcing law out today. And, of course, as I've said numerous times, they're concentrating on public safety threats. That'll be our priority right out of the gates.
On Tuesday, congressional Republican leaders headed to the White House to chart a course for other agenda items. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate continues to work on getting key Trump cabinet nominees to the floor.
In the coming days, the Senate will hold additional votes on the president's national security team.
Trump's nominee for Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, and UN Ambassador nominee Elise Stefanik appeared before committees Tuesday. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was the first to receive approval.
I, Marco Rubio, do solemnly swear.
And was sworn in Tuesday morning. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
As President Donald Trump swore to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and usher in a golden age of America, San Diegans watched. Some hope that he will bring down prices on basic goods, and some fear his authoritarian threats, and some are willing to give Trump another chance, despite heavy doubts about his criminal record and his age. KPBS's Public Matters reporter Amita Sharma spoke to local voters, an independent and 2 Republicans. A 4th panelist, a Democrat, had to cancel because of a family emergency.
So, Alan, President Trump's second term begins with expanded presidential power because of the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity. After yesterday's speech, he signed a flurry of executive orders, I believe 100. One of them dealt with declaring an emergency at the southern border, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accords, trying to appeal birthright citizenship, which is in the Constitution. And there is another one which includes pardoning 1,600 January 6th defendants. Is there anything that you heard in yesterday's speech signaling that the president might actually temper some of his clout?
Well, that'll be up to the two other branches of the government to temper whatever might be unconstitutional in the steps that he's taking. I was glad to see that, that he took the oath to protect and defend the Constitution in that room filled with all of the officials and other important American citizens.
Liliana, the cost of housing, the cost of groceries, high electricity prices are crushing San Diegans' wallets. Homelessness is on the rise. President Trump said Monday that he wanted to focus on the economy. Are there any signs, any steps that you're looking for the president to take that will tell you that, oh, he's really going to deliver on reducing the cost of living for Americans?
Yes, something I'm looking for President Trump to do is to reduce taxes, if not eliminate a lot of the taxes that we pay for, would be something that would help everybody. Also, just with during his speech, he did focus on everything being in America, and I'm really hoping that the farmers, the water supply, drilling, everything, just bringing money into our own economy will drop the prices down overall.
Eddie, so Trump declared a state of emergency at the southern border and reiterated yesterday his plan to undertake mass deportations of undocumented people, which could affect hundreds of thousands of people in San Diego who work in agriculture, in construction, in our restaurants, in our schools, and in our homes. How do you view that plan?
My family is Mexican. They come from Mexico City, and I'm first generation here, but I do understand that there's a crisis right now at both borders, and so I fully support anything that is going to document citizens coming in. It's not necessarily about, pushing everyone out.
So, Alan, the three richest men in the country, if not the world, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, were given prime seats at Monday's inauguration. What, if anything, does that signal to you?
Well, it's been said that it's a sign of an oligarchy taking control in the country. Personally, I think that it was important for those people and everyone else in the room to be witnesses to the swearing in.
So Musk later in the day gave a signal which is being widely interpreted as a Heil Hitler sign, not just once, but twice. What's your response to that?
That's something that they're going to really have to be asking him in the coming days and see if they're satisfied with the answer.
Also, he's a genius billionaire with Asperger's. This guy isn't, I'm sure that signal wasn't intended to be a Hail Hitler. I think he was just excited.
Not only that, but also the excitement of the moment and the three texts being there. The way I saw it was just a unity of America.
So, Eduardo, there is among many Americans this deep apprehension that democracy might be in its twilight. Once the Trump administration takes over, he has threatened to jail his opponents and members of the media and suspend the Constitution. What are your thoughts about whether he will do this and whether he hit anything that suggested that in the speech Monday?
Yeah, that sounds very Russian, but I also feel like Trump likes to have fun when he talks, and he likes to get numbers. I don't see it as something that is you know, he's not going to be able to execute on that unlawfully.
So Liliana, based on what you heard in President Trump's inaugural speech Monday, how do you think the next chapter of the American story will unfold?
I think when he mentioned that he felt after the assassination attempt that God spared his life to help our country, I truly believe he means it. And with a lot of the executive orders he signed, it will push a lot of, it will push our laws, our Constitution. But I think at the same time we need some changes. So we need to use our own natural resources. Another one with ending the Green New Deal. It is going to set back a little bit on the environmental progression that we've had, but at the same time we kind of ran with it a lot and just veered on improving a lot of our infrastructure, and we just need to slow down a little bit on that.
Well, thank you to all three of you for your time and your comments today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Matters is a partnership with KPBS, iNewsSource, and Voice of San Diego. You can see more of our stories at kpbs.org/Public Matters. SDSU is planning to build new dormitories that would house thousands more students. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the demand for on-campus housing has never been higher.
SDSU was long seen as a commuter college, but nowadays students are less interested in driving and prefer to walk to classes. The Evolve Student Housing Project would construct 7 new dorm towers with more than 5,000 beds. The campus currently houses about 8,500 students. Bob Schultz is the university's architect. He says the dorms will lower SDSU's carbon footprint by reducing vehicle trips to and from campus. But there's an academic benefit as well.
But primarily, we're in this business because they graduate more frequently, they have higher GPAs, they just thrive and succeed better as students when they live with us.
Last October, a fire broke out in a canyon about a mile down the hill from SDSU. 1 home was destroyed and 6 were damaged. Most of the new dorms will be surrounded by canyons on the northern edge of campus, but Schultz says they'll actually be safer than the old combustible buildings that the dorm towers will replace.
So these are going to be the most fire-resistant buildings that California knows how to build. That's not just the concrete frame and the structure, that's also the envelope of it, the facades. At the same time, we will have better access to all the towers for the fire vehicles than we would on most construction in the neighborhoods.
SDSU is holding 2 public meetings to gather feedback on the plans on January 27th and 30th. If approved by the CSU Board of Trustees, the project is expected to be complete by 2030. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
A community group in Kensington is trying to raise fire risk awareness among their neighbors. KPBS reporter Melissa May met with the group of concerned volunteers.
The Kensington Fire Safe Council is a group of Kensington residents who promote fire safety in their community. That includes about 800 homes.
The Montezuma fire that occurred last year on Halloween was a big wake-up call to a lot of neighbors.
Amy Dyson has been a Kensington resident on and off since the 70s. She is a co-chair of the group.
Kensington is a high fire severity zone, and we're surrounded by canyons, very vulnerable. So if we can get our canyon residents to maintain their properties to 100 feet, we'll be that much safer in the case of a wildfire.
Dyson is referring to the defensible space around a home. She says they have community presentations about fire safety, but their group has a new focus.
We have noticed that a lot of fires are being started by these illegal encampments, and we're very concerned about that.
In this Fairmount Canyon area, just in the last 3 weeks, at least 10 illegal encampments have been identified and cleared, but new ones are appearing every single day. And not only are they leaving a lot of trash, but there is evidence of open flames where it just takes one spark to ignite all this dry brush around us.
They are cooking with open flame and propane tanks and that kind of stuff and keeping warm at night with propane. A spark here could end up being Palisades. I mean, it's so dry and the right wind conditions, there's homes 100 yards up the hill.
In a statement, a spokesperson for the city of San Diego said, quote, "The city has and will continue to address encampments along city property in this area. There's a variety of safety advice always being given to individuals experiencing homelessness contacted by city staff, including fire and police or contracted outreach workers."
All the way to the end on this side, we're about...
Mike Baldwin has only lived in Kensington for about a year, but has experience with wildfires.
I lived through the Oakland Hills fire, so I understand mass devastation.
Baldwin wants his neighbors to be proactive and notify officials through the city's Get It Done app and website if they see illegal encampments.
Hopefully raising for recognition of the community to make more noise, to also help identify camps, let our officials know so they could get cleaned up and cleaned out and reduce that ignition source.
Another volunteer group picks up litter and cleans up after encampments on the first Sunday of each month. Judy Harrington is the other co-chair of Kensington Fire Safe. She says besides the illegal encampments, another one of their concerns is clearing dry brush.
We also would like to see the city really enforce strongly the codes around brush management, because you're only as safe as your neighbor. And so if your neighbor has a lot of overgrown palm trees in their backyard or front yard, or trash piled up nearby or whatever that's highly flammable.
The city of San Diego did not respond to questions about enforcing brush management in Kensington by our deadline. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Well, we're getting a little bit of a break from the Santa Ana winds during the day tomorrow, but by the evening hours, we are going to see those gustier winds return. We're also still dealing with the low humidity through about Thursday, so that high fire threat that does remain, so something to keep in mind. But good news, there is rain on the way that we are tracking for the weekend. So let's start off with your temperatures for tonight. We're in the mid-30s for Oceanside, low 40s for San Diego here, 30s for Borrego Springs and Mount Laguna. Tomorrow, we're only warming up to the 50s for Mount Laguna, 70s for Borrego Springs, low 70s in Oceanside, and just about the mid-70s for San Diego. We're going to hold on to some of those clouds really across the board as well. And then here's what I was talking about with the winds. We're looking at 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts in the areas where we've been seeing those Santa Ana winds. Now, these are not as strong as the winds that we've had earlier in the week, so that is good news, but it still does lead to that increased fire danger. Now, you'll notice we do not have any of those red extreme areas. San Diego itself is in that elevated risk area, but then as we go a little bit further inland, that's where we get to the critical fire danger for Wednesday evening through Friday morning. But then here's the rain that I mentioned that's going to come in this weekend. We're not talking about significant rain, but we'll take what we can get, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at your 5-day outlook for the coast here. 71 for your Wednesday. We're down to 70 by Friday. There's those showers Saturday and Sunday. Again, not super widespread significant rain, but we will see some showers. Going further inland, your 5-day outlook, 80 degrees for your Wednesday. We drop down to the mid-70s by the time we get to Friday. And then there's that rain, the showers that we're expecting for the weekend. In the mountains, we're at 52 for your Wednesday, 50 for your Friday, and then dropping down into the 30s by the weekend. Your desert 5-day outlook, we're in the low 70s for your Wednesday, 65 with some of those showers on Saturday, and then we're in the upper 50s by the time we get to Sunday, still holding on to some of those clouds. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Anna Azalian.
And here's another look at today's top stories. The lilac fire burned 85 acres today in Bonsall, but CAL FIRE says the forward progress has been stopped. The fire was started shortly after midnight at Old Highway 395 and Lilac Road, not far from Interstate 15. An evacuation order went out very quickly, and CAL FIRE said there were some structural damages, but no reports of home loss. And it is unclear at this time when residents will be able to return home. And as fire weather conditions continue to threaten our region, a red flag warning for our region has been extended through 8 p.m. on Thursday. SDG&E also resumed public safety power shutoffs. At last check, power is off for more than 15,000 customers, with over 68,000 others who are at risk of having their power shut off. A fire weather watch is in effect through tomorrow afternoon for our mountains and valleys. In one of the first acts of his presidency, Donald Trump cut off access to the CBP One program for asylum in the United States. KPBS spoke to a Venezuelan asylum seeker who had traveled to Tijuana with her 7-year-old daughter, hoping to reunite with her husband in California. But with the program shut down, now she says she has to tell her daughter that she may never see her father again.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Trump's immigration crackdown begins to take shape. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On NPR's Morning Edition, President Trump's nominee to run the Department of Veterans Affairs, answering questions about proposed spending cuts, staff shortages, and whether the VA would continue to provide abortions. And tomorrow marks 1 year since flooding devastated parts of San Diego County. KPBS Midday Edition is tracking the recovery effort. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Tripolsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.